reaction. So every day we come up with a new video on social and political reaction. There's a lot of reaction within the social realm, focusing on Nyabohanse and generally the family of Marwa and the likes. But sometimes we go out of that and talk about other popular people in Kenya. Of course, why do we talk about these popular people? They have a lot of aspects they share that we need to talk about. Away from that, we discuss African politics and even American politics, of course. Currently, I hope you understand Trump is under the pressure to be impeached. I don't know. May you drop a comment based on your knowledge. Do you think that Trump will actually be impeached? Or do you think he's above the law? So those are the current questions that are looming out there on virtual space. Now let's go for the current drama in Uganda. So of course Uganda have gone through a series of campaigns, a period that was from last year, and it ended just when elections were going on. Of course, if you are following my channel, you saw closely how a lot of Bobby Wine's, journeys were interfered here and there. But now finally our own Museveni, the president who was declared of Uganda, comes out and says that he has been violated. I don't know whether that's a lie or reality, but many people don't believe in what he's saying. And of course, Pan-Africanism has come for him, and Traore has also come for him. So I just want us to do an analysis of why would Traore actually go for Museveni when he supports African nations to do their own stuff? Of course, this might be something that he's doing so that he enhances the African culture. The fact that it's not Trump that we should rely on to come in our nations to sort stuff. And it's a letdown from the African Union, of course. It should be African Union that should be working out on these matters and not Traore. But Traore, the president of Burkina Faso, actually, you understand, all of us understand, that recently he was almost undergoing assassination because of the bomb that had been planted by a former official that was actually sent away to a different country. And looking at what is currently happening, we have seen that an entire family of Museveni actually dominates the government. A mother, a father, a daughter, a son are all in power. And it's such a surprise that it's only in Tanzania and Uganda where you actually find that family becomes leadership. And these are matters that just prove how corrupt we Africans are. I would say that because how would it be that all family members become rightly leaders once a father is a president? And it happens not just in Tanzania. You look at even Kenya. Planet Boy, hello, how are you? I hope you're fine on this Tuesday, which is 20th January 2026. And I don't know, I hope your time frame is same as me. So if you are in Kenya, for example, it's a good morning. But if you're in a different country, it might be good afternoon or good evening. So I'm very fine, Planet Boy, a very fancy name for that case. So thank you so much for liking the video, and thank you so much for sharing all the time. I appreciate your presence every time on this channel as we go down the political analysis. So Planet Boy says I'm in Kenya, and thank you so much. Basically, maybe which town or city are you breathing from? Are you in Mombasa, Nairobi, Nakuru, Eldoret, Kitale, Busia, and Isiolo, Garissa, and all those sites? So welcome, welcome. I really appreciate that. And any other person watching, thank you so much for checking on our channel. Oh, Mombasa. Oh, salam alaikum. Mombasa is my favorite town, or rather city. It's a part of the cities, of course, because of the pleasures of the, checking from the beaches, getting to the ferry as you cross to the other. I really lived a lot around there. I taught at Hamisi Boys and also had friends in several other schools around there. Of course, I keep traveling there because I have some property in the coast. Okay, inshallah. So let's continue doing our analysis on this platform, and I'm so appreciative. Of course, as I said, one day, once I'm satisfied with the financial muscle, I'll be moving around within Kenya and also without. But though in Kenya, I've actually gone to almost, I can say 70% of places. I've gone to Garissa, I've gone to Homa Bay, Siaya, Kisumu, Ugunja. I've gone to Busia, I've been to Taita Taveta, that is Taveta, Undanyi. I've been to Voi, I've been to Mwatate, I've been to Mombasa, Kilifi, and all those other sides. And also been in Kitui, I've also been somewhere, Kibwezi, somewhere there. I used to visit there a lot. I've been up to Changa, that is Salama, then you get down Machakos and all those places. So I don't want to keep talking about it, but it's just a fancy. When you find somebody who knows or rather stays somewhere you went, you feel so happy. So thank you guys, keep coming, keep watching, keep liking, and continue subscribing to the channel because you mean a world to us. When you do that, it means a lot to the algorithm. Even dropping a comment means a lot to the algorithm of my channel, as well as liking and following whatever you are doing. So as I was talking about Uganda, the fact that the leader who has been in power for over 40 years just promised in past that he will not let leadership slide out of his hands unless somebody goes to the bush and oust him just like he did to Idi Amin Dada. So that was not a very good message, but even if people thought that it was just a theory, then it became a practical aspect to Museveni. Now let's go on and see what's happening, because currently, of course, Muhozi, the son of Museveni, has done very cruel stuff. Like he ordered the shoot and kill in Uganda, and the target was also to eliminate Bobby Wine, as well as ensure that the NUP supporters are done away with. And of course, this is not the first time we are seeing this happening. And if you understand very well the politics of Uganda and followed Besigye, you know what I mean. And if you don't know about it, forget about it. But let's go after it and just check in some of the aspects right here. This is what happened on the streets of Uganda based on...
You've been complaining that life in Kenya under the current administration feels like hell on earth. On the account, that was Uganda's first son, openly calling for Bobby Wine's death and bragging about a kill count like it's a video game. And he wasn't even done. He added, "We'll kill on sight all NUP, so-called foot soldiers, until Mzee says otherwise." And then he took it personal. "The first thing I will remove from Kabobi are his balls." You know what? And somehow, even after that, he claimed to be a prophet of Almighty God, calling his father's landslide as the biggest since 1996, and promising to do better than 22 murders a week. Now, this is Uganda in 2026. A sitting general boasting about extrajudicial killings and issuing 48-hour surrender ultimatums and salivating at the idea of mutilating his father's political rivals. On the other side of the barricade, Bobby Wine remains the ultimate ghost in that machine. having survived a raid on his home by what he described as armed officers.
Of course, if you were keen, just after elections on 15th, Uganda was in shit and there was smoke all over the place. Of course, we saw the shooting of individuals and they could not tolerate other voices from standing out. Away from that, we actually witnessed during the night moment when the home of Bobi Wine was actually, invaded and the gates, though closed, people had to jump into his compound. They tampered with CCTVs. They wanted him, probably him, and he had to sneak out, according to what he said, from a hidden place. And up to now, nobody knows where Bobi Wine is. And of course, Pan-Africanism has come in to just ask for him. I want us to look at this video to follow up on what the Pan-African movement has just said. But I wonder whether this is going to happen. Kelly Sharp, hello. It's a while again. You appeared on, was it 15th or something? I hope you're well, and hello. I hope you're fine. So I'm going on with the political reaction, then I'll come up with social reaction later. Thank you so much for the like. Thank you for watching, and also I appreciate for the dropping of comments. So Uganda has been a worrying situation, just like Tanzania was, and unfortunately in Africa we just talk about things. We try to pressure, but the pressure cannot work. So we are seeing, just as things are moving in Uganda, Museveni came out to mock these people, the Noop and Bobi Wine, and he declared that, in fact, all the votes that were spoiled were his. He even said that if Lord Resistance Army was strong enough, then there could be no opposition. So according to him, democracy is just on paper, but it cannot be applied in Uganda. Something that he did not just say today, he said it a long time ago. It's unfortunate, of course, there are a group of people who celebrated his success, the success in quotes, because I would be surprised why you would be following up on an opponent if you really have strong support. If you know the ground is for you, why would you be fighting with somebody very small, you know? And I want us to look at Museveni right here.
External market, and that's why I've already started speaking to our East African leaders. This morning I speak to His Excellency Ruto. I'm going to speak to Samia and the other leaders about the East African community to make that market free so that we can sell easily without restrictions. Now finally, this time we are going to start taking advantage of our oil, because our oil will start flowing this year. When I was flying all over the place, I was passing over the pipeline. It is reaching Hoima, and very soon we shall start pumping the oil. And therefore we shall have money to deal with infrastructure, to deal with the railway, to deal with the power stations, to deal with some of the roads, not all the roads, because I don't want the oil money to be spent on these things which are not long-lasting. I want to put the oil money in the railway, which will last a long time, and in the power stations.
Now in this, while talking about oil money, Museveni came up to indicate that Bobi Wine had been cheating people and said, or rather promised them, of the division of money once it is harvested. And he assured the Ugandans that that cannot happen. The only thing that can happen is to put that money in developments. And that's exactly what it's going to do for Uganda. So I'm not just sure about these statements that Museveni is sharing with the citizens, but he actually also insinuated that he wants East African Union to be strong, but he wants to dictate what he can sell and what have you. I'm not sure about what Kenya wants to display in the market or Tanzania, but he already has an idea about what he wants to sell in the market. And when you talk of oil, for example, of course, I've heard already Tanzania has it also, Kenya has it also. So I would be surprised which country would actually give over to another, or should they join forces and make it happen? You know, that's one of the questions that we should keep asking. But meanwhile, I want us to go back to what the Pan-Africanism have said, because, of course, Museveni's speech took a long time. He was so happy that he had taken victory. Whether it is stolen victory or just victory, he didn't care about it. For him, it's just victory. Now, I want us to go look at the Pan-Africanism and their reaction towards this, because they have come out to speak. How impactful are they? Are they going to really impact on the decision that has already been made? They can't reverse it? All right. So let's look at the Pan-Africanism here.
Was given. Kind of growth is not only statistically impossible, but also grossly fraudulent. Independents by civil society groups and political parties confirm that the Electoral Commission register is poisoned with duplicates, some people appearing over 50 times to match up with the NRM register fraud. In other biodata of deceased persons, minors, and ghosts, people totally unknown, were identified. The preset target. After shifting his narrative in late 2025 to claim 2.7 million votes were stolen from him, Museveni, in 2021, Museveni deployed an algorithm designed to hit a 70+% threshold. This was a coronation by calculation, not a count. In early 2025, Museveni claimed that Bobi Wine had robbed him of 1 million votes in the 2021 election. At the peak of the campaigns in November 2025, he increased his claim to 2.7 million votes. In 2021, Yoweri Museveni claimed 6,042,898, while Bobi Wine was given 3,631,437 votes was given. Here, Museveni gave himself a margin of 2.4 million votes. In the 2026 elections, Yoweri Museveni claimed 7,946,772 votes against Bobi Wine's 2,741,238 votes. The margin this time around is 5.2 million votes. The difference between the two margins of 2.4 million in 2021 and 5.2 million in 2026 is 2.7 million, the exact figure which Museveni says he was robbed of in the last elections. This can only be possible by a special algorithm of a predetermined result. A chorus of threats. Next. From General Muhoozi Kainerugaba's tweets vowing to crush opposition, to the parliamentary rhetoric of his Patriotic League of Uganda FLU group.
Yeah, so actually from Pan-Africanism, and you've seen clearly that they are not supporting the win or the victory that Museveni has had. And they are standing firmly against what has been announced by the Electoral Commission of Uganda. Unfortunately, as Pan-Africanism continues to speak, they did speak during the Tanzanian election, they have spoken during the Ugandan election, but does it change anything? Of course, we are seeing threats from other nations. We've had Traore speaking, we've seen the Botswana president speaking, and I want us to see what Ian Hammer says about this. Let's watch about Hammer, and after that we'll be checking on Ian, on what we'll be checking on what has been shared by Traore. So let's go on and see this. Of course, Ian has urged other nations to come out and address the crisis of Uganda. Now remember, Uganda is one of the nations that has been bragging about standing alone, and they don't care about any other nation. They are saying they have the military, they have the financial muscle, they have industries that actually are basically Ugandan. And so they promise that regardless of what other people believe, Uganda is going to do it on its own if other nations want to give up. So, of course, information from other nations such as Burkina Faso, among others, is contravening that. But remember, we have those who believe in what Museveni does. And I'm not so sure that you would tell me, or rather convince me, that the president of Tanzania would be against what Museveni has done. Neither do I think that the president of Kenya, who is an accomplice and a business partner with Museveni in iron industry, would actually turn against Museveni. Of course, there was a recent understanding between the Kenyan president and Museveni to actually do the roads. You remember? And the aspect of the trains and all that. So I doubt that he can actually stand against him. Anyway, let's go after it. And of course, I was supposed to write an article on news about this. But meanwhile, let's look at what the Botswana Ian has said.
Down on ordinary Ugandans as military clamps down on ordinary Ugandans, desperate for a political voice and a choice for change. You have been warned of the bloody consequences. Silence translates into complicity in the vote rigging and the brutalization of opposition on the continent, as it did with the Tanzanian elections. Such silence only trenches and fuels dictatorships and the decline in democracy. His Excellency Ian Khama, former president of Botswana. Thank you very much, President Khama, for not using silence at this profound moment in history. Now, I like this. Of course, article.
Yeah, so from an article that has been shared, that the president of Botswana, Ian Khama, has shared clearly that there is no need for actually the rest of the nations keeping quiet about this. They need to come out in numbers and talk about what is happening in Uganda, because it's a desperate move that is suffocating democracy. That regardless of Africa living and promising to stand by democracy, it seems they are frustrating it. And that's the reality. By the way, when you look at what happened in Tanzania the other day, you look at Cameroon and many other nations that have gone through election, you understand clearly that there is a problem. There is a serious problem. But anyway, let's keep checking. There is something that Traore also shared. I want to come to that before I proceed. And please continue dropping comments based on your knowledge about what's happening. Al Jazeera has also come out to speak about the Uganda Bobi Wine's aspect. Of course, what they have shared is that message that Bobi Wine sent. So maybe you can check on that before we come to what Traore has said.
Much of Uganda has returned back to normal after a tense election marked by violence in some parts of the country and the disputed poll results. President Yoweri Museveni has accused the main opposition party, led by Bobi Wine, of trying to destabilize the country and cause chaos.
I asked the confused people to come back to sanity, because what they are planning, what they wanted to do, we already know, and we have already demobilized.
Wine, also known as Robert Chagulanyi, is in hiding after security forces raided his home last Friday. How are you? How's your family?
I'm alive. I don't know how my family is.
He spoke to Al Jazeera.
I would love to be in my home. I've not changed my clothes in days. I want to be home. I want to be free. I want to take care of my people. But the military and police have taken over home. This is a crackdown to intimidate, to silence, and to completely, subdue the forces of change.
You have rejected the elections. You said that the election was rigged. What evidence do you have?
This time, not the police, not the military, but Electoral Commission officials took part in critiquing ballot papers in favor of General Museveni. Glad enough, we have record of them, we have videos of them doing that.
Do you want people to come out to the streets to protest?
We want the people of Uganda to take charge of this and find numerous creative ways. Could be protesting on the streets. Some of us started protesting by holding the national flag. Others can protest by staying at home.
Protests largely over the election result turned violent in different parts of the country. Most of the violence happened in areas like this. Several people were killed in some areas, allegedly by security forces. Police said they were containing a riot situation. Namutebi Oliver is grieving her son. He was shot by a stray bullet during running battles.
Unfortunately, in Africa, when we have this demonstration, they never end well. Sometimes blood must be sprayed on the roads and lives must go. And we must have very bad memories of those demonstrations. The name demonstration actually hits very negatively with most of the people currently. So nichukulia 50. Nakuja kulipa tu saa hii nikimalizia hapa. All right, so I want us to look at what somebody said here. It was TRaore. It's been recorded by televisions. And after that, we can come back to Kenya and talk about what's happening right here. So, of course, TRaore has talked about this, and African News Update has given us this. So let's look at this. Do you think it's right for Ibrahim TRaore to say this?
So explosive, and why the entire world is watching. Captain Ibrahim TRaore, the 35-year-old military leader who took power in Burkina Faso in September 2022, has become Africa's most outspoken voice for a new generation of Pan-African leadership. Since taking office, he has kicked out French military forces, challenged Western exploitation of African resources, and inspired millions of young Africans who are hungry for change and tired of the old guard. On the other side, we have Uganda's Yoweri Museveni, one of Africa's longest-serving leaders, who has been in power since 1986. And caught in the middle is Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, better known to the world as Bobi Wine, the charismatic musician turned politician.
What took place at Bobi Wine's home should worry anyone who believes in freedom. Late at night, armed forces surrounded his residence. Power was deliberately cut, plunging the area into darkness. This was not an accident. Darkness makes it easier to hide actions and avoid witnesses. After that, the electric fence around his compound was destroyed. His private security guards were beaten badly, even though they had done nothing wrong. They were not resisting the law. They were simply protecting the place where they work. Soon after, an army helicopter appeared and landed inside the compound. That image alone tells a powerful story. Military equipment meant to defend a nation was used to take away a civilian opposition leader. Bobi Wine was forced onto that helicopter and flown to an unknown location. No arrest warrant was shown. No official charges were announced. His family, lawyers, and supporters were left confused and afraid. This kind of operation does not look like law enforcement. It looks like fear in action. When leaders act this way, it shows a deep lack of trust in their own systems. It also sends a message to the public that power can act outside the law. That message is dangerous. It breaks confidence in justice and creates fear among ordinary people. If someone as well known as Bobi Wine can be taken like this, people begin to wonder what protection they themselves truly have. This incident did not happen in isolation. It happened during a very tense post-election period. Votes were still being counted. Emotions were already high. Many people were waiting anxiously for official results. In such a moment, removing the main opposition leader by force pours fuel on an already burning fire. Bobi Wine had publicly questioned the election results. He said they were manipulated. In any real democracy, such claims are addressed through courts, observers, and transparent processes. They are not answers in helicopters. When force replaces dialogue, democracy begins to collapse quietly. Detaining an opposition leader before results are finalized creates fear and suspicion. Leaders that the easiest way to deal with opposition is not debate or law, but detention. Over time, this destroys democratic culture. People stop believing in elections, and once that belief is gone, stability becomes very hard to maintain. There is a deeper fear behind this situation. If Bobi Wine were to win the election but remain detained, what would that mean? It would mean the will of the people has been ignored. It would mean that the military, not the voters, decides who leads. That is not democracy. That is a coup, even if no tanks roll through the streets. Coups do not always happen loudly. Sometimes they happen quietly, through paperwork, silence, and detention. That is why this moment matters far beyond Uganda. Some leaders believe that force brings stability. History proves the opposite. Fear creates silence, but silence is not peace. It only hides problems until they grow too large to control. True stability comes from legitimacy. Legitimacy comes from trust. And trust comes from fairness and openness. When people believe...
How I wish the entire African continent would have such leaders as we can see in Traore. Actually, he says he gives a lot of wisdom. My VP, hello, how are you? I hope you're fine. So when I look at Traore, I actually see a lot of sense in what he shares. And I don't know whether our leaders understand this. All they do is to make sure that they adhere to their own desires, and they don't actually do what they wish the people should do. So I would wish us to go to ODM, and of course ODM is a crumbling party. If you know, you know. Currently there is a possibility of a new party forming out of this through Winny Odinga. And I can assure you that if Sifuna goes together with Babu and Winny, they are going to form a very strong resistance ODM. Because when you look at what Winny was trying to say at Kamkunji, he was indirectly, she was indirectly addressing matters to do with the party, how people grabbed it, how they have manipulated the system, how they have had to rob the virginity of ODM, and actually its facts, and how it used to uphold its culture. So MYVP, hello, welcome. Thank you so much for coming up to our channel. So I want us to look at briefly at the fact that there is high chances that if Winnie goes on with her race, we are going to see a new ODM, possibly with a new name or the same name maintained, because according to Winnie, it's a party that actually has to, calibrate the young, the old, and all types of people, not just as it's happening currently. And she was directly addressing Gladys Wanga, Junet, among other people who actually have stood against the norms of the party. And of course, looking back at what the party stood for, you can't believe it that we are seeing things crumbling down. And some people blame Raila Odinga that he messed the party before he left for joining the government. I don't know. So let's just look briefly at the facts around ODM. I saw someone who had done a very short analysis, and I want to use the same a little bit just because of this. And let me just check at this. Oh my God, where is this? I think it's here.
Samuel, with you, whose deadline she rages on.
Ngojeni. Baba alikufa juzi tu. Tulieni. Haraka ya nini bwana? Wacha tuongee kwanza. Simamisha hii basi kwanza. Wacha tuongee.
Okay. Now looking at that bus, the bus is the party, okay? And the driver used to be Baba. And now we have passengers who are at the front. Of course, you understand those who are in leadership, including Gladys Wanga, Junet, Arat, among Gladys Wanga, among others. Then we have Sifuna, Babu Wino, we have Oburu Odinga, of course, who has rushed to pick it and run with it as it is. And now Wino Odinga comes up with Junior, Raila Junior, and they hold a parallel meeting in Kamkunji grounds, just as ODM is running its own affairs in Busia and Kakamega. And of course, Osoti indicates that he was not invited. Let's just listen to him.
Doing those meetings across the country, maybe that would be a new rebirth or an emergency in ODM.
A day after Yala lawmaker and late Raila Odinga's last born called party leadership to order, Deputy Party Leader Senator Godfrey Othosi has broken his silence, revealing that Oburu and Suna East lawmaker Junet Mohammed, alongside party chair Governor Gladys Wanga, defied party trustee Ida Odinga's advice that top leadership convenes an urgent meeting to iron out issues before anything else.
Actually, during that meeting in Kakamega and Busia, it was clear that Junet was saying that there is no need for most meetings that have to resolve any problems, that the party has already its decision from what Baba left them with. Whereas when we come to the family itself, especially Winnie Odinga, who is now currently representing the family, I don't know whether they were sent by Ida, because remember Ida had advised the party during the moment they held as a kind of birthday in absence. They held that meeting, and within that meeting, Ida advised the party to go on for discussions. Now, most of them have disregarded for selfish reasons, because after all, what they care about is power. If they are close to power, the better. For them, they say they're tired of sitting in opposition, and they're no longer going to go for that. All they have to is to form the government or be part of government. That's what matters to them. They are no longer actually interested in the people. And as I looked at them, campaigning in Busia and Kakamega, talking about Linda Ground, I was not just sure about what ODM was standing for. So let's listen to this again.
He says Oburu and Junet Mohammed boycotted the meeting, which was to be chaired by Timothy Bosire in Nairobi.
I know for sure that Honorable Tifuna appeared with the Honorable Bosire, but the other two leaders did not appear in that meeting, only to turn up the next day in Mombasa, in Kilifi, for the Central Committee. What we are saying is that let us engage. For example, I have seen there were two meetings in Western Kenya. I come from Western Kenya. There were meetings in Busia, there were meetings in Kakamega. No one informed me about those meetings, and I was not involved. So that kind of thing is not healthy for the party.
The deputy party leader has also taken issue with his boss for unilaterally coining and propagating new slogan ODM Linda Ground.
We have not had a discussion on anything to Linda Ground. That's not the slogan of the party. The slogan of the party is known. The slogan of the party is ODM Tuko Tayari.
Oh my God. So that is exactly what I discussed the other day. I talked about the stealing of slogans. So Linda Ground is a new slogan that this party is coming up with. And of course, it is just adopted from the United Opposition. The United Opposition has a slogan that talks about Sikiza Ground. That is what UNP stands for, Sikiza Ground. So it seems that ODM is lost in its slogans, and it has just stolen a moment from the United Opposition by picking some words and saying Linda Ground. I was surprised currently with that kind of conversation. And of course, Osoti now reminds us about the lost slogans in ODM. And of course, so much has been lost in ODM, including that unity, the togetherness. And that is why we are actually saying that there's a high possibility Winnie, Odinga, Babu Owino, Sifuna, and people like Orengo, Osoti, Hamisi, and others might be coming up with a different party under ODM. If we are not careful, very soon that will be shown. So there is an ODM civil war going on, and Ruto and Oburu should be actually afraid of what is happening, because when you look at what Winnie Odinga was doing, she was actually talking to the youngest of the youngest, and she was also going to talk to the people at the grassroots, whereas ODM that went to Busia and Kakamega was simply addressing citizens in relation to their desires, Linda Ground, and they were emphasizing that the ground is the citizens. But is the reality seen? When you talk of delegates and the fact that you can actually pick these citizens, there are too many. Will you actually satisfy all of them? It's impossible. Of course, that delegates required in Kakamega, they are just a handful. In Busia, a handful. And so, it becomes a very tight race if we look at it. But anyway, let's proceed and see.
Trying to bring new slogans that have not been discussed within the hierarchy of the party is one way of creating more confusion and division in the party. What's behind it? I have no idea because I have just come back from South Africa and those are some of the things I'm saying. It is important to heed the advice by Mama Aida that leaders within the party must talk.
On 30th December, while speaking in Lugari constituency during the burial of former cabinet minister and MP Seras Jirongo, Ososi drew a red line and a Rubicon he said should not be crossed.
As the deputy party leader and as someone who believed in Raila and ODM ideology, I will not sit down and allow people to wreck the party.
All right, so when you look at what Osoti is sharing, what Winny shared and all that, we see a lot of problems actually coming up and a civil war kind of coming up in ODM party. Meanwhile, the Nyota tour that has been propagated by Ruto is a desperate move that is being looked down upon by many discussions. One of the discussions that was held on Daybreak showed that it's not necessary to have the politicians going around to share this unless he is actually using that as a political weapon or tool. So the reality behind the Nyota is not actually known very well. Do you believe that the Nyota initiative is being used as a tool for campaigning, or what is happening? So let's look at this. Let's look at this here.
There is no character development quite as painful as spending on a lady who has zero intentions of reciprocating. It is the ultimate nightmare. Imagine you pay the Uber, clear the heavy bills at the launch, and even pay her monthly rent. And then the moment you try to shoot your shot, she hits you with, "You are like a brother to me."
My colleague PS were here, Your Excellency.
And if this scenario was a person, currently be wearing that with a nervous smile at State House. The president is currently engaged in the most expensive courtship in Kenya history, and the object of his affection is the Mount Kenyan voters and the youths. For the past month, the commander-in-chief has been crisscrossing the Republic with the frantic energy of a man who just saw his fresh catch flirting with a rival at the bar. Now, if he isn't in Nyanza attempting to woo the ODM faithful with the persistence of a jilted lover, he is back in central Kenya, desperately reminding voters of the good old days before Rigathi Gachagua fallout made the house feel empty.
Mimi nimepangana na nyinyi, na kama kuna mtu anafikiria ati ataharibu urafiki mimi nimejenga pamoja na nyinyi, huyo ni mtu anaota ndoto ya mchana. Mimi siwachani na nyinyi, muanze kujipanga. Mimi siwachani na nyinyi, mujipange.
When he isn't playing the jilted lover, he is playing the doting father, dishing out pocket money to the same Gen Z's youths he was calling criminals just a few months ago.
We will support those who want to do business like yourself. That is why they want to insult us on 20,000 or 50,000. We want to tell
the same gathering.
Tulikubaliana na nyinyi.
Kahiga has become the cynical best friend in this romantic comedy, loudly warning the president in the past that the Mount Kenya is happy to eat the lobster, but they aren't going home with him. And to Kahiga, trusting Mount Kenya with your wallet is a high-risk gamble. They'll attend the rally they will take the 5Gs, and they will even clap for the cameras. But when it comes to the ballot box, they would definitely swipe left.
Rais ni kingpin wa Kenya, lakini pengine sio kingpin wa mlima. Ukimwona mwambie Mheshimiwa Rais, wewe ni kingpin wa Kenya, lakini kwa mlima una wenyewe.
Najua mnapiga kelele, inaingia kwa video yangu na sitaki hiyo kelele.
Tunafurahi kwa sababu rais amekuja na hii wiki
mwache tu nitamaliza, ni waache.
Tumepata marupurupu. Tungetaka awe akiendelea kuja kwa sababu akija marupurupu yanapatikana na tuna furaha, lakini mwito ni ule kwa pale. Ni vizuri nikwambie.
Kwa hivyo watu wa mlimani hawajaanza
hawaja. Unajua ni vizuri, mimi nimekuwa, si mimi mwenyewe pia nilimkaribisha Nyeri na kwa sababu ni rais na mimi ni gavana na nikampokea. Lakini hata yeye mwenyewe anajua uchangamfu uliokuwa kwa mwanzo na ule uliokuwa wakati huu kuna tofauti, kwa sababu kuna yale mambo ambayo yalitendeka ambayo hayajakuwa, unajua Kenya huwa sio watu wa kuchangamka na kupiga nduru na kufanya nini. Wakikasirika huwa wananyamaza. Sasa juzi tulielezwa kwamba rais anakuja, tukaambiwa kwamba anatuletea mazawadi, basi tukajitokeza na tumepata.
His body language at the Sagana meeting reinforced that message. When asked by Embu Governor Cecily Mbarire to openly back Ruto's second term with a two-term chant, Kahiga sidestepped the request and tossed the decision back to the crowd.
Wapi?
Ni maiguaria morio. Mimi niko 4 term.
Na itotam ni yako. Ya President Ruto ni gani?
Ya President Ruto ni gani?
Alright guys, so you saw actually how Kahiga played the trumpet. Sometimes you don't have to blow the trumpet for anybody. You just have to make them blow themselves. Do you believe that the people of the mountain are actually going to be backing Ruto fully as they did in the previous election? The Mount Kenya is one of the regions that is actually relied upon to make a decision about the electoral process. And many of the people are looking at it, even though we have a lot of rumors indicating that the president has had to solicit for votes from foreigners after opening up the basket of no vetting. And so currently, a lot of Somalis, people from Zambia and many other people who have invaded the nation have had a free ticket to actually get ID cards, and therefore they are going to vote. Does this actually tell us of what is going to happen in elections? Of course, as we watch the ODM civil war, we have to keep asking whether Nyota is a project that is being used to solicit for votes or if it's just an economic empowerment. According to some of the supporters, they indicate that Ruto is actually empowering the people just as it is in the manifesto of UDF, which is bottoms up. So some people are indicating that Nyota is picking people who are from low end, no skill, and empowering them with a 1 month training that will offer them a job or stability. And on the other side, it is being indicated that the money that people can actually borrow will allow them to conduct businesses. So I don't know. Let's watch and see. The space is there. We have all the time. And we keep watching, but it's always enough to tell you that you have to be wise enough as a voter, because your intelligence, your knowledge, and your wise choice will determine the next moment whether you're going to cry or you'll have to smile. It's unfortunate that most times Kenyans want to cry after elections, but when you tell them to have civil education before, or rather have reasons to choose the leaders they pick, they have no time. Once they are given a lesson, sugar, or some little money, they really clap for some candidates and just vote for them. So it's always intelligent. We are advising you to keep following information, getting the right intelligence, and having reasons as to why you'll pick whoever you'll want to pick. Voting is not gambling. Let's stop gambling with our votes. Adios for now. Let's meet later in another video that we'll have a time for. Otherwise, just within the day, then I'll have to conduct a social reaction.